Hello once more. This is Michael Bly, student, pastor, correctional chaplain, and a faculty member, welcoming you on video 2 that is covering the remainder of Ruth chapter 1, some of my exegetical gleanings as I prepare my sermon for Sunday. Video 1 is linked in the comments below. And it's important to start there rather than here with video 2. And so left off with verse number 5 of chapter 1, concluded with verse number 5, and we'll pick up in verse number 6. Years later, Naomi heard that God remembered his people in Bethlehem and provided food for them. And so again, one is left wondering how comfortable this family is in Moab, being Hebrews. In fact, at this point, now that Naomi's husband and 2 sons have died, in a sense, this has essentially become a Moabite family. There are 2 Moabite daughter-in-laws and 1 Hebrew, Naomi, the mother-in-law. And so is this now a Moabite family? The original reader is going to be asking these questions. So, despite her old age, Naomi, she decided to return to her ancestral village. She gathered everything to return back home. Naomi told her 2 daughters-in-law, also childless widows, "Go home and live with your parents. Thanks for being so kind to me. May Yahweh bless you with the safety and security of a new husband and better family." And then Naomi tried to kiss her daughter-in-law's farewell. So there is no patriarch of this family at this point. However, Naomi is the senior member of the family, and she is releasing them from any family duty and obligation. And this release is sealed with the kiss. The kiss is not a sign of affection, but it's a sign of sealing a deal. Not terribly unlike when Judas seals the deal with his kiss of Jesus. However, the response of the daughter-in-laws, they began crying, and they cling to Naomi, and they say, "No, we will go to your people and to your land. We want your family." This is the first real evidence here in this chapter that there's something that is unique that is developing. Remember the context of this period in the Judges, a period of tremendous disloyalty. But here are hints of loyalty beginning to display themselves. But Naomi responds, "No, it would be foolish. I don't have any other sons for you to marry. If I got pregnant tonight, you couldn't wait the amount of years for the child to grow up and marry you. Yahweh has taken my sons and left you as young widows. You must return to your parents and find a new family to marry into." The Hebrew text actually says they returned to their mother's house. Why? Because the mother was in charge in that culture of things of marriage. Life will presumably be much better within their native Moabite society than it would back with Naomi's family in Bethlehem. And so the three women, they weep together. The trauma that they have endured together as a family now of 3 widows. They realize that this is going to be the last time they see each other. There'll be no weekend or holiday visitation. This is it. And so Orpah kisses her mother-in-law Naomi farewell, goes back to her parents. However, Ruth is remaining with her mother-in-law. Naomi is encouraging Ruth to do what Orpah has done and return to her culture. So initially Orpah held out, but eventually she acquiesces as the audience might have expected, but there remains resistance from Ruth. It might be even that Naomi really doesn't want the drama of showing back into Bethlehem with two Moabite daughter-in-laws. It's going to be bad already returning with her current shame, having abandoned land, as well as now being childless. To show up with Moabite daughter-in-laws, so it's going to be worse. But Ruth here, she is going to be stubborn. Do not advise me to leave you and return home. I'm going to be loyal to you, your people, my people, your God, Yahweh, my God, your culture, my culture. I'll be buried in your village as your relative before our God, Yahweh. I swear this. We understand what she is saying, but culturally speaking, this is a covenant. She is willing to leave behind Moabite identity and become Hebrew. A reversal of Naomi and her household, who left their Hebrew identity to essentially become Moabite. So now this idea is brewing even more. The virtue of loyalty that's coming from Ruth, even during a time of disloyalty, when one might argue that Elimelech, Naomi, and her sons, they were disloyal as Hebrews, but Ruth here is loyal. She's the one that has no real shame in Moab, and yet she is willing to attach herself to the shame of Naomi. Again, the idea of shame is contained much more in the first part of this video series. So, Ruth is determined here we are. Ruth is determined, so Naomi allowed her to go to Bethlehem. The entire community is shocked. It says the entire community. Bethlehem has always had fewer than 200 people in history, so it's not a large community. They are in shock. They hardly recognize her after so many years. Shock and recognition could mean the people are surprised. Naomi has aged. However, there might be more to that. Shocked in the sense that the shameful has come back and returned. Even more shocking is that she has returned with a Moabite whom she is attached to. Don't recognize her may mean that she has aged. However, it may also refer to the fact that the customs of Naomi have changed in these 10 plus years being in a foreign land. Her accent, speech, cadence, language are all different. Her clothes and dress are all different. And so she's less recognizable in her own land, which further increases her shame. So, in the concluding part of this chapter, she's says to the villagers, don't call me Naomi, which means pleasant. Call me Mara, which means resentful. She's willing to renounce her name. Don't call me sweet, call me bitter. Renouncing name, a genuine part of one's personhood. She is accepting her shame here. She says that she is empty. I left with a full family, but returned an empty widow. However, she doesn't return empty. She returns with a very loyal and virtuous daughter-in-law. And upon her return, this is her way to the clan to declare that she needs assistance. As I stated in video 1, what was important in that time was land, men, and children. They abandoned their land. The men were all dead, and they had no children. And so, in the concluding narrative here, Naomi settled in Bethlehem with her daughter-in-law Ruth, a childless widow from a foreign land. They arrived at harvest season when the farmers were gathering grain in the fields. This is screaming outsider, shame. Childless widow in a foreign land, in a place that was very conscientious of outsiders. This is bright flashing lights. The narrator, when you read it in the Hebrew text, is constantly reminding the reader of the Moabite identity of Ruth. There's no virtue expected in the initial facts. However, as we now close the door on chapter 1 and go into chapter 2, there's been surprising elements of virtue from the Moabite. My aim is to upload video 3 on Tuesday, December 1st. Until then, take care.